It's a privilege and an honour to represent the communities of Middlesbrough South and East Cleveland, where I was born and raised. Much of this debate has sought to pit rural and suburban against each other, but I say to the House as a representative of both that we can deliver for both, and that's precisely what I expect this government will do. Mr. Speaker, distinguished predecessors have represented my seat. And politicians in maiden speeches often say that they stand on the shoulders of giants. Well, rarely is it so true as in my case, as not only was my predecessor, Sir Simon Clarke, a giant in physical terms, but also within his own party, and particularly in his admirable zeal for planning reform, an issue upon which he campaigned and stood up to his own party, and it's fitting that this debate today places such emphasis on those reforms. This is a government committed to building the homes and the infrastructure that this country needs, and it's measures like the Planning and Infrastructure Bill which will start to create the jobs and the growth that we need, and I'll be pushing for Teesside to be at the heart of that work. If the House will permit me, I'd also like to pay tribute to two other predecessors from my party. Firstly, Tom Blenkinsop, who some in the House will remember, who served not only his party and constituency, but also his country in the Royal Military Police. And Dr. Ashok Kumar, my MP growing up, who has already been referenced in this debate by my honourable friend, the member for Stockton North, a tenacious constituency MP whose model I hope to follow. Ashok once said that our constituency is a microcosm of British society. He was right. It's not particularly left-wing or particularly right-wing, but it's full of decent people who want the best for their families. Our identity is complex. We're officially in the North East, but we're also proudly in Yorkshire, part of the historic North Riding. We've been called Cleveland and Langbar, and today we're told we're in the Tees Valley. But whatever you may call it, our home is an incredible place. My constituency sits between wildly different landscapes at each point of the compass. To the north, you find the beach, where the North Sea frets washes out over the seafront at places like Skinningrove. To the south, you leave the beautiful market town of Gisborough and meet the vast wild purple of the North York moors. To the east, the rolling fields of East Cleveland, rural North Yorkshire at its best. Proud villages and towns, from Loftus to Lingdale, Skelton to Stanghow, and Broughton, where I grew up. I'm proud to be our constituency's first MP from the villages, and I hope to serve them well. To the west, you'll find suburban South Middlesbrough, home to many working families, and home in Marton to the birthplace of one of this country's greatest explorers in Captain James Cook. When you venture further, those communities give way to the towering chimneys and snaking pipes of industrial Teesside, once the beating heart of Britain's economy, the infant Hercules, as Gladstone called it. Home to a 300-year economic relay race from one major industry to another. First fishing and agriculture, then coal, then iron and steel, then chemicals. We built the world, the saying on Teesside goes, as steel forged in Teesside furnaces found its way into the Sydney Harbour Bridge and spanned over the Victoria Falls. When Churchill's War Cabinet met in their underground bunker not far from here, or when the ball hit the net at Wembley, it all happened under structures of Teesside steel. Today, we're perfectly positioned for the green jobs of the future. We already produce around half the country's hydrogen, and with the right industrial strategy, we can create jobs in hydrogen, in carbon capture and storage, in clean power, wind, nuclear, solar, and our port. If our engineering capabilities are harnessed, we can lead the world again, which legislation like the Great British Energy Bill, the Crown Estate Bill, and the Planning and Infrastructure Bill can deliver. But Mr. Deputy Speaker, Teesside is more than just the place, it is also the people. Like steel, Teesside is an alloy, a meld of different communities that shaped us. From the miners and the Methodists, the labourers who came from Ireland, the ironworkers from Wales, sailors from Japan, Jewish refugees from the pogroms of Europe, trade unionists, chemical workers, and on and on. These are the small and disparate atoms which Teesside took on and blended into our culture, strengthening it into something solid and secure, bonded together with values, fairness and respect and collective responsibility to look out for the community. We see this today in so many local community organisations, from the Gisborough Bridge Association to East Cleveland Good Neighbours to the eco-shops we see in Marton and Colby Newham and others. Because we know what it is like to experience economic hardship, with levels of poverty and destitution which have not been seen in decades. And when times get tough, it is easy to fall into habits of division and blame. It's much harder to take that common pain and channel it into a common purpose, but that is what Teessiders do best. It was there in times of economic shock, whether from globalisation or global pandemic. It was there in the floods and the food banks, that instinct, that base code of the people of Teesside to come together and look out for those in need. Community in the face of adversity. That's our spirit, embedded like ironstone deep in our culture. The unbowed and unbroken spirit of the infant Hercules, that's what we're about. And with the powers set out in these bills, the devolution to take back control of services, the investment in the jobs of tomorrow, we can once again drive prosperity on Teesside and prosperity across Britain, rebuilding our communities and rebuilding our country. Thank you.
Alicia Cams.